may hear you.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Welcome yet again to another Shabbat of Yahuwah.
Amen.
We are limited in our broadcasting today since we have no Spanish translation. And a couple of people are out, enjoying relationships. We have, unfortunately, a brother with a sick little one. And I know this season comes with a lot of flu and cold and all types of nastiness. So people are battling a bunch of bugs and the weather. So we're short staffed, as they say, but as the legendary coach Bill Belichick says, if you on the team, you play. So those who are with us today, obviously are with us. So I appreciate those who are watching online. For those who are in ailment or dealing with anything that's bothering them, obviously we're full for you and your household.
Amen.
And that hopefully by next Shabbat, you're restored or at least in a better state.
Amen.
Today I have a short teaching actually. It's an extension of what was spoken about in our Bible study, which if you have not joined our Bible study, they're fantastic. Yesterday we had a great session where we had a community night, so we were watching YouTube clips. We tried to start a movie that was to no avail, and everything in between, cracking jokes. It was a very good time, and I don't think I've laughed that much in a long time. So if you have not joined our Bible study sessions, please do. They're Monday, Wednesday, Friday. They start at 8, and I typically try to kick people out by 11, but things happen. And they've been probably one of the best installations that we've done in this ministry, allowing brothers and sisters alike to go and join in on and to share the word, share their week to week progress, and I just think it's a great tool that we can use to hold each other accountable, as the scripture says, throughout the week, and make sure we keep up with our Shabbat keeping piety.
Amen.
So, with that, today's teaching is the full version of the short brief that I spoke about on Monday, which is half measures. And that's going to be, I believe that's the title of the stream as well. And it's something that I've been dealing with both as an individual, but also something that I want to talk to. Half measures is a street term, but it speaks to a lackluster effort when it comes to doing anything, be it for yourself, a group of people, the community at large. But, I know the term is half measures. And we're going to go through the Bible today, bouncing around a lot of different places, talking about why half measures, in my opinion, of course, are not the way that we should conduct ourselves in. Not because I want everyone to be a model citizen, though I do, but rather because I believe half measures are what leads individuals and groups of individuals to shortchanging not only the Most High Yahuwah, but also starts creating excuses to not be with brothers and sisters, to not keep the commandments to the best of their abilities. It allows people to start straying away from the walk, so that they go to the left, to the right, so just keeping straight. And most importantly, it gives you an out that you shouldn't have in the first place, and sets up false expectations, because now when someone's giving you a full measure when it comes to the commitment effort and you're giving a half measure, there's a situation of unequal weights and measures, which we'll also talk about that. So to start, we're going to start in the book of Colossians chapter 3 verse 23, and if I'm not mistaken, Yeshayahu, who's the lead tech right now, is putting the verses on screen so you can follow along as well there.
Let's repeat that one more time, please.
Colossians 3:23.
There it is.
Fantastic.
Whatever you do, do it heartily, as to Yahuwah and not to men,
So I want to start off here because this one is one of those, if you had an argument with someone and you ask, why do you want to give full effort? This should be the only verse you should need. Do so heartily. And that, it doesn't say do so half-heartedly. Heartily, full heart. Meaning that full commitment, full diligence, full effort, 100%. However you want to slice that. It's all of you, not a piece of you. So, in whatever you do, big or small, half measures shouldn't be something that should be a characteristic that should be used to describe you. Why? Because you're doing things, as it says here, for Yahuwah, not for men. Because we're always, 100% of the time, 7 days a week, 364 of the year, representing Yahuwah. There's no off days for a believer. The same way you don't ask Yahuwah, oh, don't forgive me today. He doesn't shortchange you. So he expects that commitment to full measures to be a way that we carry ourselves from day to day. Moving forward, Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 10. One second. Billy, can you step outside and get the wine from Jordan, please?
Yeah.
Ecclesiastes what?
9:10.
Hey, come here. Come here.
It's okay.
Alright, you're good.
I apologize for that. We had a brother that was dropping off his offering for the Shabbat day, but I had to do some due diligence for the family. So, thank you for doing that, brother. I apologize for the stream interruption. Ecclesiastes 9:10.
Kohaleh, chapter 9, verse 10. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with your might. For there is no work or device or da'at, knowledge, or chokhmah, understanding, or in Sheol, the grave, where you go.
So a lot of people have this idea that they have the rest of their life to do something, or they have another opportunity in the second life, or there's always this assumption of being something you could put something off until another time. When we know, and I spoke about this when we spoke about commitments in the previous Shabbat teachings, tomorrow's not promised. The idea of being guaranteed an extra 24 hours outside the present 24 hours you're in is an idea that we as believers should not make plans on. Not to say you shouldn't prepare, not to say you shouldn't have contingencies, but rather you should not conduct yourself in your conduct in a fashion that suggests that tomorrow is a foregone conclusion for you. And that is as off. Hence, when I'm referencing this particular verse in Ecclesiastes, it's important that what you do it now. do it now.
Mhm.
Because you can't bring all the tools, all the knowledge, all the experience, all the expertise that you've accumulated in this life
To the grave.
to the grave. So there is no, we'll get to it. If something is of importance, if something is of priority, for lack of better words, don't put it off, because that notion of putting it off is a half measure.
Mhm.
You're delaying an event that deserves your wholeheartedly commitment. And I see this a lot in the walk. I'm sure you can testify to it. A lot of brothers, especially around this time, getting ready for Passover, don't get the circumcision done.
Yes.
They put it off and they put it off and they put it off. And then the week of Passover comes.
Oh, I need circumcision.
It's too late.
You had it all year.
So I use that as an example because it happens a lot, unfortunately. Important things do not give half measures to. But even in the minor things, don't give half measures to, because you can't take anything you have with you to the grave. Let's go to the next reference. 2 Peter chapter 1. We're going to read verses 5 through 10.
Nine and 10?
No, 1,
Yeah.
5 through 10.
5 through 10.
Yes. You got it?
Kefabet, chapter 1, verse 5 through 10.
To the first one.
And besides this, given all diligence, add to your emunah, faith, power, and to power, da'at, knowledge, and to da'at, temperance, and to temperance, patience, and to patience, Shabbat guarding piety.
Pause there. That's under 6, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see all these staggered events? You do one, and once one is complete, you do two. Once 2 is complete, now you build on 1 and 2 and get to 3. All the way up into the end of the matter, which is, as we know, Shabbat keeping piety is always going to be the end of any list of a believer. Because if you can lead your life in a way that every day is a setup for Shabbat, that means that every day you act as if it's Shabbat. So if you're living a life like that, you are most tov.
Not that it's saying that you have to keep the regular
Customs and rules of Shabbat.
Exactly.
But your conduct and your mannerisms, because it's like going to church. You act differently when you're in church versus the other 6 days of the week. It's the same idea. And this is funny enough, an argument I'm sure even Christian pastors have to fight with. But here for us, I paused the brother here only because of this. It starts off with diligently. It doesn't say you could do all this with a half measure. It doesn't say you can do all this with a small effort. It is diligently. So if you want to ask yourself, how can I get closer to the things of the Most High? What can I do so that my conduct is in the halachot of Yahuwah? You have to do what you're doing for him diligently. Because once again, like I said, Yahuwah doesn't stop any moment of any day of any year making sure that you are dealt with the way he has decided in his will for you. So if he doesn't take a day off and he's giving full effort and we're supposed to be imitators of him, it starts with our conduct and it starts with our effort. I understand people get tired. I understand things happen that cause setbacks. I understand life happens. That is a thing. It's an obstacle. I'm well aware of that. But like the famous saying goes, you make time for what you want to make time for. You make efforts for what you want to make efforts for.
Man.
If you want to lose weight, I know many people who drop everything and wake up at 4 a.m, go to the gym from 5 to 6, go to work, do what they got to do. They sacrifice something to make sure that's done. That's a full measure. In like fashion, that should be your walk. That should be your commitment to not just Yahuwah, but to the body of Moshiach, which is you, I, the little ones, the elderly, and those who are strangers but are curious as to what this walk is about. Continue, please. Unless you have something to add.
Nope.
It's verse 7.
Yes. And to Shabbat guarding piety. Now, here in the scripture where we're reading and it says Shabbat guarding piety, In other versions, you're only gonna see the word godliness.
Yeah, or holiness.
So godliness is translated from Shabbat guarding piety.
Correct. Or Sabbath day keeping for those who don't.
Exactly. Brotherly kindness. And to brotherly kindness, ahava,
So,
love.
the conclusion of keeping diligence, giving full measures, somehow ends up now at ahava. Because we know what ahava is. Ahava is a multitude of things. It's not just love. Ahava is literally a laundry list of items. But to fulfill ahava, first you must start with a full measure. No half measures, no half steps. Why? Because you're going to fail all these steps that get you to it.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens when you give half measures? And this is what I spoke about at the Bible study. You start creating envy and bitterness and discord because you're giving half measure. Now someone has to give a measure and a half to make up for the lack that you put now. So now this person's going to be burnt out faster because they're trying to cover you because they love you. They care about you. They want to make sure that you and yours are good before the eyes of Yahuwah. But now you can start creating discord, which we know Yahuwah calls an abomination. See how before you even get to brother Yahweh, you have already failed because you've created discord? Half measures. Continue, my brother.
Verse 8.
Mm-hmm.
For if these things be in you and abound, they shall cause that you shall neither be inactive nor unfruitful in the knowledge of our master Yahusha HaMashiach.
Unfruitful meaning that multiple items are coming from you. Like a tree. A fruitful tree gives you multiple fruits. So, and then ineffective or inactive. Meaning that if you're doing this walk, you cannot do it half measured. Why? How do I know this? Because of what we just established before with the steps. So if you're always in discord, I know you're not being full committed to this walk. But also, let's just say you can fake it till you make it all the way to that point of brotherly Yahweh. If your fruits are not bountiful or ineffective, I know you're giving half measure.
Not ineffective, effective.
No, you won't be ineffective. So if you're being ineffective, I know you're not keeping the walk.
Correct.
So with that being said, half measures, though it may seem like a small thing, the influence of it is like a domino setting a chain of events of a longer stream of dominoes. And we have to, as brothers and sisters, hold each other accountable to not allow us to have half measures, because you let it slip once, you give the inch, that inch becomes a mile very quick. And then we ask ourselves, oh, how did we lose that person? We gave a half measure and tried to preserve that person. And that person gave a half measure and letting themselves be preserved.
Correct.
And staying on the walk. It's a two-way street, but there's still half measures being performed. Finish out the rest, please.
Verse 9. But he that lacks these things is blind and cannot see far off, and has forgotten that he was purged from his old sins.
The dog returning to the vomit.
Verse 10. For this reason, Israelite brothers, give diligence to make your calling and election sure. For if you do these things, you shall never fall.
Again, half measures. This whole 5 verses in conjunction with the first verse in Colossians 3:23 when we started. If someone asks you, what is so bad about not giving 100%? Combine these 2 verses and you have the whole teaching pretty much. But I'm going to continue expounding upon this because sometimes you need to see it from multiple perspectives and different fields so you can see how far this cancer can go. Because that's what a half measure is. A cancer is you can only catch a cancer once it's affected multiple cells. It's already grown out of control. Let me teach you how to spot this cancer early so it doesn't become terminal. Go to the book of Romans 14:19.
Romania, chapter 14, verse 19.
Yes, sir.
Let us therefore follow after the things that make for shalom, and things with which we may edify one another.
So, going back to the half measures versus full measures. Half measures don't make peace. Half measures don't build. Because you don't build a house with half the amount of bricks. And you don't make peace with somebody with a half an apology. You don't build bridges with showing half a hollow. You see, when we get to the core of this, half measure is a testament to who you are as a person more than it is a series of events that you don't do. Because if you have a spirit of shortchanging, it's in all aspects, and it shows in all aspects. How do I know this? Jeremiah 29:11. This is Yahuwah speaking in this regard.
Nine 11.
29:11, sir.
All right. Jeremiah 29, verse 11.
Yes.
For I know the thoughts that I think towards you, says Yahweh, thoughts of shalom and not of evil, to give you tov tikva, good hope in the end.
So, how do I know what I said earlier? And how does this verse confirm what I know? If your life does not have hope in it, if your life has no future, you are living a life based on your thoughts,
Right.
your understanding. And that is now a half measure to Yahuwah. Because you know what you ought to do. And if you grew up in a religious household, it doesn't have to be Torah. Because even Christians tell you to follow the way of God. And you have to figure it out from there. If you're not doing that, you are shortchanging yourself, which is the greatest sin. Because if you cannot do it for your own sake, there's no way you can fulfill the second great commandment, which is to love someone as yourself, because you won't do it for their sake, because you're not doing it for yourself. So you have failed the second great commandment. And if you can't do it for yourself, there's no way you can dedicate your mind, soul, being, and heart to the Most High, a being that you cannot see, cannot touch, cannot speak to in the conventional ways. So you see how one leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. It's one domino that goes and tumbles over another set of dominoes. Going to the book of Proverbs, 27:17. This is what we should look like when we talk about full measures and why we need them. And I'm going to talk about how half measures make you dull.
Mishle 27:17.
Mm-hmm.
Iron sharpens iron, so a man sharpens the face of his chaver, friend.
If anyone's ever had to sharpen an actual knife, you know you need two items that are of equal strength. If one item is too soft, you dull out the stronger steel or metal. Meaning that you're doing more harm to the knife than good. What happens when you have people in the faith and some people are giving 100%, other people giving 85%, other people giving 50%, and some people are just giving just enough to get to the door? Eventually, those that are more strengthened, more sharpened, will dull out. And those who were already on the fringe will fall out. And those who already didn't really care to begin with will use that all to justify their lack of effort. In like manner, if you're walking in one accord, if you're walking as a community, doesn't matter if it's 5 dudes or 500 dudes or 5 million dudes. Let it be with people that are equally yoked, equally sharpened, so that when I need someone to keep me accountable to my efforts and my commitment, it's not someone that I deem to be doing less. When I say I deem, I'm not saying that I'm a judge, but rather if I'm putting in 10 talents, I can't be judged by someone putting in 1 talent. But if someone who's putting in 10 talents is matching me and I'm slacking with my 10 talents, I would want them to call me out, rebuke me if they have to, so that I can keep my commitment where it needs to be at, which is at 100. 2 Timothy 1:7 is the next place I want to read.
2 Timothy what?
1:7, sir. This is tying in with what I was reading, what we were reading together in Proverbs, because people say, "Oh, but you need to understand, everyone's built different." Okay, let's talk about that.
Timoteo Salif. 1:7.
No, Timothy, bet. 2 Timothy.
Timteo's bet.
Yes, sir.
1:7. For Yahuwah has not given us the ruach of fear, but of power and of ahava and of sound mind.
So, if we all have power, we all have a sound mind, or some translations, self-control, there's no excuse not to give 100%. Fear is one of the leading causes why people don't give 100%. Fear of failure, fear of rejection,
Ridicule.
fear of ridicule, fear of not being accepted for what you believe or practice.
Mm-hmm.
Fear is a powerful tool that the enemy uses against us.
Indeed.
It's worked since
The beginning.
Yeah,
since the beginning of think
recorded
about it.
time.
Think about it. Why do you think he was able to seduce Eve so well? Because he put the fear in her, where she felt probably
Pressured.
not pressured, but inferior, because she didn't have the knowledge of good and evil.
Gotcha. So fear of missing out.
And he was like, don't worry about it. If you eat it, you surely won't die. You'll just understand. And she was like, oh, probably, wow, I really don't understand. And I want to understand. Now there is a fear of not trusting in Yahuwah.
The only fear you should ever have is the fear of Yahuwah, which is the beginning of knowledge.
Amen.
Outside of that, Yahuwah has given you everything you needed to give full measures. We can't work on fear. You can't tell me you're scared of something. That's why you're not being 100% in your efforts to this walk or to yourself.
We don't shortchange Yahuwah. Yeah, we use that word, oh, don't shortchange Yahuwah.
Yeah.
Yahuwah is not getting shortchanged.
No, he
doesn't need you.
Correct.
We're shortchanging ourselves.
And a plight.
Because if you're in this, and this is your belief, why half step?
Good question.
Why half step? If you tell me, you know what, I really don't want to keep Torah, I really don't want to be, following all of these rules.
Yep.
Okay, you've made a conscious decision.
Yes.
For yourself that you don't want to do it. I'm not going to make you do it.
And you were honest. That's a confession.
Yeah.
But many people are, even in trying to cover up their secret sin, give half measures. Again, you are given the power of love, power, love, and self-control, or
sound
mind. That's how this Bible translates, which I actually like that a little bit more. But everyone has that to start. That's not unique. That's not a talent like we read in the other books in the New Testament. This is what everyone has as a baseline. So you can't tell me that you can't give 100% because of X, Y, and Z, or as we just finished explaining, based on fear, because that's not what was given to you. So if you have fear of something, that's not of Yahuwah. That's of you. And you have to fight that off so you can go back to being fully committed to his things. And in being fully committed to Yahuwah, fully committed to the people that you walk with, left and right. Again, this has nothing to do with being in a community. This is about just you, the individual. We're going to talk about the community in a little bit. Let's go to 1 John, please. 4:8.
Yohanan Aleph, chapter 4, verse 8. He who does not have Ahava does not know Yahuwah, for Yahuwah is Ahava.
So, as we read earlier on the building blocks, the 5 through 10, that was Peter, 1 Peter 5 through 10.
The last one was Ahava.
Last step was Ahava. So you had to do all these items to build yourself up. But before you even got to Ahava, there was brotherly affection. And then after you have mastered brotherly affection, then you have Ahava. A.k.a. now you have Yahuwah. Because Yahuwah is Ahava. We just finished reading. So how can you tell me you love Yahuwah, but you give half measures? You give a lack of commitment, as I taught in other teachings not too long ago. These are all... I'm almost regurgitating a couple things because it's important to understand how your walk has multiple aspects of it. And people always say, oh, that's a lot for me to carry. Break it down to smaller chunks. The chunks are too big, break it down those chunks into bits. The bits are too big, break it down to singular units. And then try to conquer and master every unit. And you can go from units to bits, bits to chunks, chunks to the whole shebang. That's how you do it. But if you don't recognize that you have to do that, you're never going to get to the point that you yourself want for yourself. Let alone what you want for your family if you have that, your union if you have that, or a community if you have that, which you ought to. And if you're watching us today, you have all those things. Or you have at least one of those said things. So, this is why giving full effort is so important. And I'm not talking about being a tryhard, which people conflate that. I'm not talking about being a zealot. That is something that has to come from you if you want to be a zealot. There's nothing wrong with that. I would rather you be head and shoulders for Yahuwah than for TikTok and the world's icons. But I'm just talking about you as an individual wanting to be the best version of yourself, whatever that may be. And that takes 100% effort. Let's go to Yohanan, just Yohanan, John 15:13.
Yohanan, chapter 15, verse 13. Greater Ahava has no man than this, that a man lay down his chaim, life, for his chaverim, friends.
Can you give up your life halfway?
No,
Can you die 50%?
that's not.
I know some guy like this morning, he died and went to hell and came back.
No,
But if you're not that guy, everything you do has to have some sort of absolute to it. Eventually, it does come down to this. Am I your family or am I not? Am I your friend? Am I not? If the answer is yes, I'm your family or I'm your friend. And I'm not talking about blood. I'm talking about those who you call family, those who you call friends. The ultimate commitment, the ultimate full measure is willing to lay down your life. I'm not saying you should go out of your way to lay down your life. But if push comes to shove, it's not something you're going to think about. There's not something you're going to half measure. Why? Because you have dedicated yourself to giving 100% in all things that comes to who you are as a person. Again, I'm using scriptures, but I'm talking to you, the person. I'm talking about your makeup, how you are metaphysically made. I'm not talking about a fictitious believer that doesn't exist. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you, the individual. Everyone can be someone who can give 100%. Or in the streets, everyone can be a hustler. You don't got to be anything special to be that. You just need to want it. You want to get to where you want to get to. And that takes 100% commitment. Sometimes even more than 100%. Let's go to the book of Almos, chapter 3, verse 3. Spelled Amos.
Put an L in there. My bad.
Oh, sorry, maybe I mispronounced it for you.
Thought it was Almos.
No, Amos.
Alright, what was the fix now?
Amos what? 3:3.
Amos chapter 3, verse 3. Can two walk together except they are first in one accord?
And we just read, being one accord takes diligence. Brotherly affection, brotherly ahava takes diligence, 100% effort. So if two people want to walk in one accord, can that occur with one doing 100% and one doing 50%? No, they won't meet. So if one gives 50, the logical conclusion is the other person has to do 50 for it to be equal. But if you're both doing 50, that means probably not even going to show up because you both gave half measures in the first place. So if you want to meet someone or you want to walk with someone or you want someone to walk with you, it begins with giving full effort. It begins with, I'm going to do this for the edification of the brotherhood, to honor or give glory to Yahuwah, to build up myself so I can be a better brother or servant. And you have to meet someone who's willing to do the same. It's not, again, a selfish thing to want to give 100%. Even if you benefit from it. Because all the fruits of that are for everyone. Let's jump to 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 40. 1 Corinthians 14:40.
Corinthians Aleph, chapter 14, verse 40.
Yes, sir.
Of course, let all things be done decently and in order.
Decently and in order. I know you've had to organize a bunch of stuff in your life. Does that not take effort?
Of course.
Anyone who's ever had to put together a birthday party, a celebratory item for people, friends or family or co-workers if you're in that space, a Shabbat gathering, a Moedim gathering, anything that involves more than one person takes effort to organize. It takes effort to put together correctly and decently. It takes effort. And on top of that, let's take it back to the house. That's what I believe that's the first thing that you have to account for. Sorry about the noise. We have to do in the household the most important thing, which is set things in order and be decent. It doesn't mean be perfect. Just be decent, meaning that it does not offend Yahuwah. It does not offend those who are keeping the walk. Ak was just showing me a couple of things. We were studying something from the Muslim faith, their dietary differences from us. And they actually have items in their food laws that are offensive to eat. So not only are they not right for the human to consume, but they're offensive. That is lacking decency. They catch you eating it. In this way, think of it the same way. A half measure or not doing things in order and decently is offensive. And it lacks order. Mm-hmm. And the order starts with if you have a household in your household, or if it's just you and Yahuwah, you're putting yourself above your hope because you don't even want to give him 100% because he's not worth your time. Or what he requires of you is offensive to you. These are the things that we should avoid, or conversations we should avoid. Let's go to Philemon 1:21.
Philemon.
1:21.
I don't have that. I don't have that book.
Definitely have that book.
No, I don't have that book. Philemon.
Yeah. I'm almost certain this New Testament.
No, I don't have that book, bro. That book is not in here.
Oh, this is the total scripture too.
Oh yeah, we do. I'm bugging. Yeah, we do.
Huh.
I've never read that book.
Oh, that's because
I've never read that book.
I say I know it's a short book, but I'm like, I know we've read it. I know it's
After what? After 2 Thessalonians.
It's a short book. I know it's
1893.
Yeah, it's a New Testament account, but it's a very
This is
short.
one chapter?
I think it's 2 chapters, if I'm not mistaken. No, 1 chapter. I see.
Yeah, one chapter.
It's a very short.
Goodness gracious.
121.
Having confidence in your obedience, I wrote to you, knowing that you will also do even more than I say.
So this is Rob Shaul speaking. So you guys know. He's speaking to a countryman of people.
To his co-laborer in Israel. His name was Philemon.
There you go. So as some would call him, he is one of the great sons of Paul. And here he says, you will do more than what I said. And this is when we start living in community, we start living in one accordance, we start conducting ourselves with full measures. If something requires more than the 100%, it's not going to be a burden. It's not, because you're going to want to do more. You're going to want to go above and beyond. And in that instance of going above and beyond, that is when Israel expands. That's when Israel grows. That's when the brotherhood is stronger. Sisterhood is fortified. The children benefit because they have more leaders, more exemplary people that they can look up to. This is when you can start saying, wow, that's a Tov brother. Wow, that's a Tov sister. It's in these moments when they go above and beyond. But you're not going to realize that until everyone's already given 100% and then that person goes even higher. 100% shouldn't be wow. That should be the requirement. It's like doing your job. It's like when people say, oh, I raised my kids. Good. That's your job. Raise your kids.
Yeah, unfortunately, people like to get, pats on the back for things that they have to do.
Yeah.
Like you don't get, if it's your job and it's your duty for you to do something, don't expect to get a pat on your back. You get a pat on your back for things that are not your duty.
Or if you're doing something and the result is above and beyond what is expected. Again, if you tell me I raised my kids and all 3 of my kids are doctors,
yes.
like, okay, understood. But these where going above and beyond is only amazing when everyone's already giving 100%. And not every percent above that is the wow. And Israel is capable of that, as we just, short. If you have not read Philemon, it's a great 1-page account.
25 verses.
So, but it talks about full commitment of a co-laborer with Paul or Shaul. So,
And Timothy.
yes. Yaakov 2:22, James chapter 2, verse 22.
$2.22, you said?
Yes, sir.
Do you see how emunah, faith, worked with mitzvot, commandment keeping,
Mm-hmm.
and by commandment keeping was his faith made perfect?
So we read this all the time. Works without faith is dead. Faith without works is dead. So show me your faith by your works.
Correct.
We say that all the time casually. But what we're taking away from that is when you go to work, anyone who works, I don't care if you're a businessman, 9 to 5, entrepreneur, whatever it is that you do for a living to earn yourself a keep. Do you shortchange your work?
Well, if you shortchange it, then you get shortchanged.
So if you work 32 hours, do you expect to get paid for 40? No.
Now, you have some, exceptions where a boss might be nice enough to give you
that is rahamim.
Exactly, but you can't expect that.
You work that day for that day's pay.
Correct.
That is what the Bible teaches. You get if you want a biblical job, whatever you do, you're supposed to get paid at the end of that day.
Facts.
If you want to keep it in the book. But I understand different times, different society. But if you want a full day's pay, you need a full day's work of labor.
Amen.
In like manner, you want your faith to be fully fleshed out. You need to do the works to fulfill that full faith. So, you can't tell me, oh, I eat clean because of Leviticus 11, but I work on Shabbat. Your faith is not being fulfilled. You are shortchanging yourself. You can't tell me, oh yeah, I show up for all 3 of the Moedins as required as a man, but you're not circumcised and eating of the lamb. It's off. You can't tell me, oh yeah, I love my family, I'm a family man, but you never hang out with the brotherhood. Again, you want your faith to be fully vetted out, fully formed, fully mature. You gotta do the works, and all of that takes 100% effort. Not, oh, I feel like this week keeping Shabbat, so I'm gonna go to Shabbat. But next week, I don't know. I gotta see how I feel come Friday. That mindset, that attitude, is the cancer I'm talking about when we started reading, obviously at the beginning of the teaching. And it's that mindset that leads you to stray away. And now you ask, why all my hard work, why am I not seeing something as a produce? Because Yahuwah says you get what you sow. But if you're reaping anything that goes against what you want, perhaps you should start looking at what you're sowing. You don't put down avocados and expect tomatoes. You get what you put in. You want 100%? Because Yahuwah is told and merciful. Amen. Give 100%. So that your faith and works can be fulfilled and completed. Let's go to Matthew 7:7. Everyone knows this if you've gone to any church in the last 150 years. I even see someone with a tattoo with this. Hilarious.
Matityahu 7:7.
Mm-hmm.
Ask, and it shall be given to you.
Mm-hmm.
Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and it shall be open to you.
Asking, seeking, and knocking, all actions. All take effort. If you're looking for something and don't give it 100%, you might not find it. You're asking for something, but ask one time, but the person really didn't hear you, so you gave up. You're not going to get what you asked for. And if you're trying to get through somewhere in life because you feel like you have the ability and you want to go to that, you want to be promoted, you want a new occupation, but you never update your resume and submit it, you're not going to get that job. It's all takes a certain level of effort. And that certain level of effort is this, 100% diligence. If you want something, or you want to do something, or you want to be something, all those states of being require 100% effort from you. None of those things can be done on half measures. They just can't, because they're gonna fail because of the half measure. Because Yahuwah only gives what you sow. So if you sow 50%, you can only get 50%.
Or, as Ox said,
Unless there's an exception being made for you.
amen.
But I have yet to see them. I know they exist. I just haven't seen them. So we have to stop thinking, and I've said this plenty of times already, so I don't want to sound like a broken record. But we have to stop asking and thinking, okay, what is this brother doing for me that I have to do that? Wrong. What can I do for this brother so they can be more like me? Because if you're striving for excellency, that means you're trying to be excellent. You would want that for your brother. If you're a good husband, you should be giving advice on how to be a good husband to the brothers that need it. So they can be good husbands. So we can all be good husbands, good fathers, good brothers. And the inverse is true too. I don't want you to be a deadbeat dad. I don't want you to be a bum of a husband. I don't want you to be a man that is not marriageable. Or someone you can't even be with. When you see him, you go, oh, here comes his brother. No one wants that. So why would you encourage that versus the good? This goes back to half-measure people don't actually follow the second greatest commandment, loving your neighbor as yourself, because they don't love themselves. And you can't do something that you don't do. As the saying goes, you never rise to the occasion. You only rise to what you've trained to do. Proverbs 14:23. I thought about you when I read this 2 days ago.
Mishle 14:22,
23.
23. In all labor there is profit,
Mm-hmm.
but the talk of the lips lead only to poverty.
You say it all the time. Ox says it to me all the time. All the time. Talk less, work more. And as someone who's lived his whole life hustling, he is living proof of that. You know, it's... I like the way this says it. All labor. All labor. Because even if you're doing something wrong or for evil, if you're doing that 100%, you will succeed in that. There will be profit for you. We see it all the time. How many people that we consider unrighteous are rich? How many people that we consider unrighteous are leaders of large organizations, large companies, large countries? Their labor was quite high, and they're rewarded for it. But just talking about doing the right thing, or just talking about giving 100% on the next thing, it's not going to profit. It's not going to do you any good. Do what you got to do, and better do it in silence, so that way you have yourself a better account at the end of the day. And hopefully you gain the profit from it. But if you're going to keep one verse from this entire sermon, this is the one to keep.
Talk less,
Work more.
work more.
Because that takes more effort. Same book, chapter 12, verse 24. So it should be a page before.
Mishle 12:24.
Mm-hmm.
The hand of the diligent shall bear rule.
Hey, you want to be a teacher? You want to be a rabbi?
Be diligent.
You want to be a husband?
Be diligent.
Because this doesn't say rule over land. It just says rule. And we know a man rules his household. But you want your wife and your kids to fall in order?
Be diligent.
Oh, she don't listen to me.
Be diligent.
Continue on.
But the lazy shall be under compulsory labor.
Oh, I can't do that because my wife.
Because you're not lazy.
There we go. There we go. Half measures affect everything. That's why I'm saying forget about the walk.
Be diligent.
Even in your day-to-day.
Be
And
diligent.
you have to be full measures. You have to be diligent. Because even what you think is not important is important. Even what you don't consider to be a big deal is a big deal. Because I don't know a man alive or a woman alive that doesn't want a partner that's 100% diligent to them. That knows what they got to do and does it. It has nothing to do with emotions. It has nothing to do with, oh, I'm feeling him or her. That person is consistently giving me 100%. If they're right or wrong, I know at least they came in the fullness of that action. There is no half measures. So I respect that person. And it's a lot easier to forgive someone that if they're always giving you 100%, the day they do slack, because men slack, women slack, people fail. It's okay because the habit is, oh, this person is always giving me A+ effort. So one day he gives me a C, it's okay. Yeah. I understand. And you keep it pushing and you keep that same love and energy as if that person gave 100% that day that you know they did it.
If you're doing 100% and you fall off a little bit, it's easy to come back to that 100%.
100%.
But if you were already giving half and then you fall off even more,
it's even worse for you.
I was just having this conversation with my son where he finished this semester with a C and he was at an F on one of his classes. And he was telling me, man, I know that I should have brought that up to a B or an A, but it was just so difficult. And I'm like, why was it so difficult? He was like, oh, because I was at an F. And I was like, oh. So if you were at an A and you dropped down to a C, it would have been all right to come back to an A or B. But since you were already at an F,
you were at the lowest point.
It's backbreaking to get to an A from an F in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks.
It's damn impossible sometimes.
Exactly.
You know, congrats to him for even going that far. But you did two times the work for it.
Yep. Because you always start. You always start at 100. The secret is
staying there.
Just staying there.
Or as close as possible.
Exactly.
And this is why we have to hold each other accountable and going back to the iron sharpens iron. If someone's always an A student and they get a B, the goal shouldn't be to jump on that person's throat. The goal should be, okay, what caused you to go to a B? So we can correct that for the next session. That's all it should be. It shouldn't be, oh, now you're a B person forever. No. And the likewise is the inverse is true as well. If you're an F or a C or D student, we should not be like, oh, well, that's all you're ever gonna be, so we're not even gonna waste our time with you. No, it should be, let's see what we can do to build you up, layer by layer, grade by grade, so that the goal is to get you from an F to an A, or as close as possible, and then keep you there. But in either direction you want to go in, everyone needs to be giving their whole unfiltered, unselfish, full commitment. No half measures. There can't be a half measures. Half measures lead to empires falling. Half measures leads to families being divided. Half measures lead to failure. Doesn't matter how you want to cut that cookie. It's just not a good cookie. Let's go to the book of Titus, chapter 2, verse 12.
Did you skip John?
Titus.
Did you skip John?
No.
I have 2 verses in John 5:17, 15:2, the next 2.
I thought 5:17 you were going to read before Titus, because that's what you did.
It's Titus, then John 5:17, and then 15:2 after that.
Alright then, my apologies.
My bad, I messed one there.
It's 2 seconds.
So 5:17 next.
Yes.
Okay.
Is it before the Timothy's?
Titus?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, it's after Timothy.
I found it. Always after Clement. That's what it is.
Yeah,
it's because the book of Clement throws me off.
That's how I felt when I was reading it. I'm like, wait a second. The particular Bible that the Ak is reading is a Bible that has a lot of additional reading sources that are in it that were removed from the original scripts before the councils that made the what we consider today the canonized 66. So I believe this has like 80-some books now.
Yeah, just about
So
about 88, maybe close to 90.
yeah, so when you're going through your 66, he's turning a couple more pages. 212 of Titus.
Titus chapter 2 verse 12. Teaching us to renounce wickedness and worldly lusts, and to live sensibly as Zadikim, righteous ones, with a lifestyle of Shabbat guarding piety in the Olam Hazeh, present world.
And we read already. How did we get to that? In diligence. Doing so wholeheartedly.
With the love of the brotherhood.
Not giving, again, half measures.
Sound mind.
Sound mind. Self-control. You see, excuses are plentiful.
Mm-hmm.
Reasons.
I'm a dozen.
Yeah. Reasons not to do or not to gather or not to be, plentiful. But people who want to give full measure, that list is very short. And it's sad because the inverse should be true. Long list of people giving 100%, short list of excuses. Because again, life does happen. Again, I use the brother as an example. His daughter is sick. He doesn't want anyone here to be infected. So can he congregate with us today? No. So
It is what it is.
Life happened. But now, next week, his daughter's in total condition, and we prayed that that would be the case. And he's not here. And there's nothing stopping him. That's off. And this is when I tell people all the time, don't make the exception the norm. Leave the exception where it's at. The exception. Hence why I said, give 100%. And when someone gives, like in Philemon, above and beyond, it's a wow. Or if someone's always giving 100% and the dips from there, it's a wow. Like, what's going on? Because you are now going outside the norm. You're now the exception to the norm. Good or bad. But if everyone's giving an A effort, an A plus and a B plus should be treated the same. Either edification and giving that person glory, and obviously all esteem to Yahuwah, or the B plus person, we should be like, what's going on so we can help you get you back to A.
Amen.
That's it. There is no other way of doing this. It has nothing, and this, I know some people take this, now you're going to be judging how I keep my walk. No, I can't. That's against the Torah. I judge not a man on his walks, how he eats, his festivals, and his Shabbat keeping. But I am able to tell you, if you keep Shabbat 2 times out of the month, you're off. I don't care what day you use for Shabbat. I can tell you that if you love one brother, hate another, you're off. That's a half measure. Doesn't matter which brotherhood you claim to be part of. See the difference? It's not judgment. I'm pointing out your logic to yourself. If you deem that as judgment, that's because you yourself are in an unclean state of being. And at that point, you're giving yourself a half measure. John 5:17. Some people say, well, I'm tired. All right, let's talk about that.
John chapter 5,
Verse 17.
verse 17. But Yahusha answered them.
Who was dumb? Who's dumb in this account?
Is this the Tommy Dean that he's talking to?
Mm-hmm.
The disciples.
Regular folks. Regular folks. I don't want to hear it. They're not even the apostles yet. Not even yet to the apostles. Because they have not been anointed after the resurrection. So they're just regular brothers at this point. Go ahead.
My Abba works until now, and I work. So if the Abba and the Son are giving full measure of work
Until now. Until now. It's not until you're ready. It's an every day. 364. What does it matter if you're tired? What does it matter? Because Yahushua was a man here. He can get tired here. In this time, in this context, he was He was in human form. He was not a human. He was just in human form, meaning that
And note that he wasn't cheating.
he wasn't cheating the system. So he got tired, had to eat, had to drink, had to shower.
Indeed.
So what is the excuse? And then he taught the 12, who were definitely regular people, born of women, and obviously conception between a man and a woman. And they upheld this. So again, because this is in chapter 5 of John, who we know is his half brother. So
No.
John.
John was when Yahusha was dying, he told, since he was gonna be leaving, he replaced himself with John to be Miriam's new son.
Yeah, the half brother.
I mean, they weren't related by blood though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was you're talking about Yaakov. Jacob was his half brother.
Okay, then I misspoke. But John, a regular man, who was, as the authors gave the account, that was added after the fact as a brother. There's no excuse for the half measures. There's no excuse. Because if they do it, we have to do it as imitators of them. Now, you and I are not Yahuwah or Yahusha. And this is when I say there's grace. This is when I say I understand, and I've said this in Bible studies. You may not be able to keep a certain set of commandments in this season. I understand. I am giving you that time to get through that progressive revelation. Because not every truth is the truth for you in that season. Mm-hmm. I understand that. I am giving you that Rahami the same way that I would want the Rahami given to me. However, that does come to a point where I'm going to tell you, you cannot use that as a crutch to not give full effort. If you can't take this truth, or you can't take a particular revelation, fine. That doesn't mean you can use that now to apply it to all the other things that have already been established, which a lot of people do. Perfect example is plural marriage. Some people don't accept that. Understood. Don't use that now to forsake the brotherhood. Don't use that now to forsake the assembly. Don't use that now to go forsake your walk. Oh, because you don't agree with that particular truth, you'll get rid of the other thousands of truths. That's the half measure. People don't see that. They just see, oh, because I can't jive with this, I can't jive with the whole book. Wrong. Plural marriage is not a salvation issue. Plural marriage is not a commandment. It's a truth. It was a thing and is a thing.
It must be accepted. Plural marriage must be accepted. That you and your wife or you and your husband don't practice it doesn't mean you don't accept it. It might not be for your household.
Correct.
But it will be for other people's household.
And you can't use that to forsake things.
And you cannot sit there and judge. Because what are you going to do when you sit at the marriage supper of the Lamb? And you have Jacob and his 4 wives. And you have David with his 8 wives.
And Moshe with his 2.
And you have Abraham with his 2. Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to judge them too? Like,
are you going to judge Yahushua with his 12?
Are you going to judge Yahuwah with his 2?
So these are the things that I say that if you can't accept, and I use that because that's the most extreme because we've had congregations literally divide over it. But even something as simple as the different Shabbats. Nathan. Much respect to Rabbi Nathan. That man keeps a Shabbat that's different from ours. His calendar is different than ours. We even joke about it sometimes. But he keeps it full-fledged. Even if we disagree. And if he were here in our midst, I would not break bread with him. I would do everything as if he were keeping the same Shabbat, the same feast days as me. Why? Because that is keeping the commandment fully. I still have to love him as I love myself, regardless of how he keeps his feast days, how he keeps his Shabbats, how he keeps his eating and drinking of foods and wines. That's how you keep that commandment. So my Ak here does have more than one wife. I love him all the same if he were single or a man of one wife. Does not my commitment to him has nothing to do with who he has in his household. Now, it just gives me more people to love. That's a different story.
Indeed.
Let's go. Same book, John 15:2. And then talking about, but I'm tired, I don't want to do this and that, or I don't believe this and that. John got something for you.
Yohanan chapter 15, verse 2. Every branch in me that bears not fruit, he takes away.
And who is he here?
Yahusha.
Oh, but that's Nando speaking. Nope. Yahuwah is going to take you. That's why I tell people, regardless of what I tell you on these Shabbats, I've always made a joke that I will sleep with the fan on medium just fine at night. Because if you were meant to stay, you will. If you don't want to keep ties with me, that's okay. I'm not going to go out of my way to make you believe something that's already preordained. That is my full measure to you. The minute you want to come with this, 100% for you and yours.
Amen.
The minute you leave from that, 100% not for you and yours. Why? Because you're no longer my concern. I will respect you as a human. I'm not going to degrade you, or like how some Jews call non-Jewish people heathens. I'm not going to go that far, even though that's a lifestyle you live in. But I'm not going to go that far. But if you're in this, you're with me and for me, and I'll be for you and yours. Continue, Mom.
And every branch that bears fruit, he purges it, and that it may bring forth more fruit.
Purging. What is that? Pruning. For those who don't know the word. Why? Tests. Tribulations. Trials. Obstacles that need to be overcome. That's how Yahuwah makes you more of who you are. But all those things take effort. And if you lack an effort, you'll never overcome these things, meaning that you'll go from a branch that is producing fruit to a non-bearing fruit branch that will be removed.
When growing a plant and you start pruning, what is the point?
Well,
So that effort, time, nutrients, and power don't go somewhere that's not needed.
Well said.
You prune, for example, in my experience, you cut a leaf off or you cut a branch off because you know that that particular branch and leaf is not going to give fruit. So what is the point of the roots giving that part of the plant nutrient? You cut that off so that the nutrient can actually get to a part where it's needed, so it can be stronger and produce more fruit, tov fruit.
And not waste resources.
Exactly.
Which people don't see it, but again, if I have to always give the extra effort, you're wasting my time and resources. That's where half measures ultimately end up at. You're stealing from the Ba'i of Yahuwah.
Amen.
I hate to say that to you, but that's where you at.
Because you're not stealing from Yahuwah.
No, it's from the Ba'i. Because Yahuwah can't be robbed. No man can take from his hand. No man. I wouldn't even go this far. No Elohim either. So, but people don't want to see that. They don't. And I understand. It takes time. It takes a lot of salah. But hopefully it hits you like a brick one day. 1 John 4:1. This is the last verse for this. And I want to close with this because I think it's an appropriate way to close half measures.
4:1?
Yes, sir. I know you know this verse by heart.
Yohanan Aleph, chapter 4, verse 1. Beloved Israel, do not believe every ruach or spirit, but test all ruachim, spirits, whether they are of Yahuwah, because many false Nevi'im, prophets, have gone out into the Olam Hazeh, present world.
Testing. Testing implies that you know what to look for.
Man.
How do you know what to look for? By knowing Torah. How do you know Torah? By putting in the effort to learn Torah. How do you put in the effort to learn Torah? Not forsaking the assembly. Not forsaking the assembly requires you to be here. Be there. Be there with those who keep this walk with you. someone of half measures can't test the rock. And that's why you see these brothers and sisters every other season. It feels like they're in one other congregation or another church, or, oh, my husband believes this, so I'm just trying to keep the peace in my house. And
These days, congregations are like bars. Dudes be hopping from one to another.
so again, I promise this will be a short teaching, and my promise has been delivered. But the implications of what I'm saying today require a lot more diligence.
Amen.
I just wanted to give you a chaser for what's going to be a much bigger understanding that I'm going to pass along. And that understanding is this. As believers, we're called to a higher standard. I've been saying that. I've been building that case for now 3+ months. I'm not going to change that message. But also as believers, we're called to be discerners. I'm not going to say any names because there's no need. It's a waste of time. And I'm not going to rob you of your resources. But when people fail, when people are hurt, those are the people that we need to help the most. Not those who are righteous and in good health. But also, in that same body, we have to chastise those who fail to help. Those who were just bystanders. You were just talking about it with that social experiment, but this is something I've been thinking about for a long time. Too often as believers, we let wickedness and lack of action go by without being rebuked. Or we give time and space and energy to people who just want the gossip on the after report of what happened. Not because they care to do something about the situation that just occurred, but rather they just want something to talk about, like a rumor mill. Those people need to be rebuked. And I'm not going to say any names, but I know you watch these streams. So, with that, don't be like the police that come after the crime has occurred, trying to write a report. Be a first responder. Be on the scene. Actually do something if you can do something. Why? Because that is a full measure. If you can't do that, but you call yourself someone in authority, be it a husband, a rabbi, a pastor, a shaliach, whatever the hell you want to call yourself, I'm going to hold you to those standards. I'm going to hold you to the things that keep people in check, because there's a famous quote that I love so much. The only thing that separates man from animals is rules. That's it. Rules. Torah is the rules I decide to live by. My household is likewise. Doesn't mean that we're not going to break the rules of Torah because we're humans. But if I break Torah, don't use that now as an excuse to give me half-measured love, support, rahamim, rebuke, counselship, whatever you think is your ability to do so. So, I am going to give a bigger teaching down the road about this. Because everyone always goes to, oh, let's help those who are oppressed. Let's help the children. Let's help insert person that needs help. But we also need to focus on those who are not helping. Because those, to me, is truly the biggest cancer in Israel. Because they know to do better and not do it. They know how to help and don't help. They know how to build and yet they do not. Those people need to be removed. The same way Moshe commanded us to remove the sorcerers, the warlocks, the diviners, the soothsayers. Why? Because they're an evil. And that evil source is half measures. So I just wanted to give you the preamble to something very serious that I'm going to talk about. So with that, I'm pretty much done. If you got nothing else, Shabbat Shalom. Today is not over. Shabbat day, of course. the rest of the day, please enjoy it with friends and family. I know for us, it's going to be sucky because it's our last day with the Ak here. But just for this year. Next year, hopefully, we'll have a different account. But we're going to spend some time with our brother before he goes on his travels. And I wanted to say a couple things for people in our congregation. To Jomi, best of luck. I know you've been keeping us updated. Super appreciate that. Hope, obviously, your hope keeps you safe where you're at. Right now, you're in the enemy's territory. That you be an example of Israel everywhere you go. And that obviously the Father keep you guarded as he did Abraham as your shield. To the sisters that are sick or dealing with sickness or have children that are dealing with sickness, obviously refer for them that Yahuwah will provide them and be the ultimate doctor so that ailments can go away from them. And to our brother that I just spoke about earlier, same to your daughter. And, those who are just going through things, that Yahuwah will be with you, but more importantly, you with him in full measure. Because I know things ain't easy. So, again, if you need to reach out, we have our WhatsApp, we have our YouTube channel, we have Gmail, and we have the Bible studies, which is through Google Meet. So if you want to reach us, we are reachable. We are tangible. Do not be afraid to reach out. With that, Shabbat Shalom. Yahuwah be with you. And we love you here from Mahavan Torah.
Shabbat shalom.